Hello, everyone. I am Tam Gonzalez with King Realty Group here in Las Vegas. And today I am back with Lisa Marie Wand. She is our commercial real estate absolute ninja. She is based out of Reno. She's got a Bachelor of Science degree in business administration. She's also got a master's degree in business administration. She began her real estate career in 2003 by purchasing a brokerage in downtown Reno. She's licensed in California and Nevada, and she focuses solely on commercial real estate with Chase International. Today, Lisa Marie Wand is going to be giving us some just absolute gold. Not only has she been helping us talk about cap rates lately, 1031 exchanges, commercial properties, but today she's actually going to help us identify the traits of a savvy real estate investor. So that way, if you are out with a residential real estate client, you can start to pick up on these language patterns and on these cues that will let you know that, hey, this person might be a person that I should be talking to about real estate. And then next week, our next episode is going to be all about what questions you should be asking these people once you've identified them. So thank you so much, Lisa Marie Wand. It's a pleasure to have you back today.
Yeah, it's great to be back. I've really been enjoying this series, and I hope people watching live and on the recording are enjoying. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them in, and I'll make sure that to answer those for you right away. So I've been in commercial real estate since 2003 in the Reno Tahoe area, and one of the things that I've noticed is there's a trend, regardless of the economy and really regardless of the location, there's a trend of some high-level skills that I've seen in the individuals that I prefer to work with at this time in my career. So from listening and watching and completing deals, I've noticed that there are certain traits to me that make a savvy real estate investor. Not only savvy real estate investor, but people that I want to work with. That's one of the nice things about being in real estate and having your own business is when you get to a certain level in your career, you get to choose who you work with, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I like to work with people who are excited about commercial real estate, who have an idea of what they're doing and have an idea of what they want and what they need, where they're going with their investment dollars. So I came up with a few traits that we'll go over today. And the first one is, the first trait of a savvy real estate investor is that they understand that there's risk involved. So we're not talking about buying your family home. Real estate investors may have to acquire a mass infusion of cash to purchase a property, and then there's not a set period of time of when they may recover that investment. So you can always have a plan, like we're going to hold this for 5 years or 10 years, but you never really know until you're there. So this is not necessarily a quick flip. And for an investor to have that big picture that there is risk involved, and even when you do your homework, it may not turn out. It's really good to have someone that has that understanding, because things don't always work out the way that we planned them, right?
Exactly. And so can you give us a few examples of language patterns in that particular arena that you've picked up on in the past that we might pick up on? Like I know I see in our notes, you called financial, something that I would have called a financial situation. You called it a financial structure, which I think is absolutely brilliant. So is that something an investor might say, like, hey, that doesn't work for my financial structure? Or are there other keywords we can pick up on?
Well, yeah, even the fact that they have a plan and they convey it, that they can express to you what their plan is a really good trigger that these people might actually know what they're doing. So it's the people that are kind of like, well, we're just sort of interested in, leveraging our money in real estate. And you can kind of hear the wishy-washy language, but the people that have been in it and have won big, and they may have lost big too, have that bigger picture perspective that this is a risk. This is an investment risk. So, and I find that some of my clients love that. Like I'm being in commercial real estate is a risk too, because we don't have a paycheck waiting for us, every 2 weeks. So there's a part of me that really likes to be in charge and be responsible for what's happening in my business. And investors that understand risk have that awareness as well.
Absolutely. And I picked up on one keyword you just said, that was leverage. So that's something that if I was well, I am a residential real estate agent, so I'll just be aware of it. But for other residential real estate agents, that's something to be aware of. Leverage. Something else that I hear my clients say constantly is upside. What's the upside? What's the cash flow? So those are some other keywords that we can watch out for as well.
Yeah, those are good buzzwords. I love leverage because I'll have clients that come to me and they just want to pay cash for a property. And I'm like, why don't we leverage your money? And maybe you can get a loan and then you can do something else and you can amplify that money by leveraging. Debt is not a bad thing. Debt can actually be good, especially when you're in commercial real estate and you're wanting to leverage or make the most of the money or the investment opportunities that you have.
It's so true. I actually just got a call from one of my investors yesterday that said, hey, what can we do on that parcel of land that we purchased cash? Can we leverage it? Can we get some money out? So very, very true.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing too is like I have a client who has a ton of single family investment properties. So I still work with investors on the residential side if they're buying, pools of homes for rentals or executive rentals. And so what he's doing right now is refinancing and pulling money out of those houses so that he can buy more investment property. So that's another example of leveraging.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right.
So
savvy investors tend to also maybe study the market trends, correct?
Right. So you'll notice in residential real estate that some of your clients are getting a heck of a lot smarter, right? In some cases, they might even know more specifics. If they drill down into an area, they may know more about that specific neighborhood than you do. Well, unless you're Tam, because she's a rock star and she specializes in Inspirada, right? In Las Vegas.
I just don't want to look like an idiot. That's all. I'm not that smart.
So, savvy investors study the market trends. So market trends could be everything from locations that are growing, either in a region of the United States or nationally. It could be business trends, like what's hot, what's up and coming, what are the new and exciting types of businesses that are opening. And also, supply and demand plays an issue here. So if they're looking at supply and demand trends and they can capitalize on that in a certain area, then that's another thing that a savvy investor would look at as far as market trends, and also growth. So a lot of people come to me from out of the area to talk about Reno Tahoe because they are getting wind. They may be a little late in the game because this has been happening for a while, but they're getting wind of the massive growth that's happening in the Reno area. We're in the top 3 fastest growing cities as far as increase in rental income and also increase in property prices in the United States. So if the investors are doing their homework, then they're going to have an idea of areas where they really want to hone in based on their expertise and based on their financial liquidity. So it's not a good idea to go into commercial real estate blindly. And so you'll pick up on these conversations when you're talking to people and starting to vet them out for potential investment properties. You're going to get a feel like if they kind of know what they're talking about or not. And I like to work with people who are intelligent about what's available and what the opportunities are. I might learn something too, because we can't be everything to everyone. We can't know everything. I really focus and specialize in the commercial real estate arena. So listening to the conversations about what these people are talking about as far as what's up and coming and what's available as far as opportunity, when I can have a fun and upbeat conversation with one of my clients about that, I'm like, yeah, I'm really excited. I want to work with this person.
Totally. That makes a lot of sense. And I just want to recap slightly for anybody that's watching, whether you're watching on the replay or whether you're watching it right now live, go ahead and leave us some comments. We'll make sure to get back to everybody. So just for beginning real estate agents or somebody that's just starting to reach this market or just starting to want to understand it a little bit better, would a good place to rub elbows with an investor maybe be like a city hall meeting or a city meeting or a city planning and development meeting? Are there specific places where we might be able to just casually bump into investors and start those relationships?
Yeah, so in addition to your current sphere, so when you're showing people houses to buy or sell, you're having conversations about real estate, We're going to talk about that next week, some of the questions that you can ask, but everything's an opportunity to connect with someone and to build a relationship. So there are certain types of events and certain arenas that investors travel in, but I'll tell you, you never know. Like, someone can pull up in an old truck just like a farmer and they've got money to spend. And if you know where the deals are and you can have a conversation with them, then they might want to, converse back with you about investing. And then the next thing you know, we've got a deal working and you're looking at a potentially very generous referral fee. So things like Builders Association, the EDON we have here, the Economic Development Association of Western Nevada. So any of these kinds of organizations that are working with companies or groups that are bringing money into your area, any kind of a business, like we have Western Industrial Nevada, we have these breakfasts here where speakers come. And so anywhere where you can connect with people, I guarantee you're going to be rubbing elbows with investors. But it could even be at the grocery store. So yeah, you never know.
It's so true. And I think sometimes we have a tendency to look at other agents or look at REO agents or, agents that get tons of listings and just think that they were just handed those listings or, they just were handed that by the bank. But the real truth is somewhere down the line along that chain, they actually rubbed elbows with somebody. They got somebody to like and trust them. It wasn't just handed to them.
Exactly. And so my thought is that you never know who you're dealing with. And so, this may sound a little cliche, but I find that just offering up a smile or a nod or saying hello to someone, when I'm out and about and I'm sharing my vibrant energy with people, that's how people are going to connect. I literally have met people in a parking garage before when I was going to an event, and then they ended up leaving their business card on my car and said, call me. We just had a quick exchange about something and they knew I was in commercial real estate. And then I have a deal. So I don't want you to be pushy because it really has to come from a natural, sincere place. And you and I have talked about this, that our business is not about necessarily always about real estate. And it's definitely not about money. That's not what gets us up in the morning. It's making those connections and finding how can we be of service to other people. So if having a conversation about talking to investors or being able to identify a savvy investor, that's a way that you can be of service to people.
I couldn't agree more. I think that when you have those conversations, even if they're brief, as long as they're sincere, genuine, and connected and have some level of intelligence, then usually you're top of mind whenever any conversation about real estate comes up.
Exactly. And I look for opportunities to have conversations about commercial real estate because I'm passionate about it. It's what I love. It's what I do. And I want to be able to share the message about commercial real estate with as many people as I can. And that's one of the main reasons that we're doing this series for residential real estate agents, is to help empower them with with enough knowledge that they can get started and expand their capability to help people and to earn additional income through referral fees.
Absolutely. So as we move into the third category, I think this one's really going to touch close to home for me. So the third category we're going to go into is that the investor that is savvy would spend a little bit extra time in due diligence. Now, I've worked with investors that want to completely rush through and don't really care, and then boom, the bomb drops at the end. So this is something that in the future I'll pick up on as well. Hey, no, if he's trying to rush through, even though if he's telling me he's really experienced, he probably is not, and I need to step in and make sure that he does his due diligence.
Exactly, because you want to do the best for your client that you can. I mean, it's really your job. And so when you and there's those investors out there that are just like seriously gung-ho, and they're just like, we found this deal and we just want to go for it, and like no holds barred. And so, from experience that sometimes those types of deals can work out really well. But a lot of times there's some sort of latent defect or issue, or some crazy scenario with this property or properties or this this deal, and you want to protect your client as much as you can from being a danger to themselves. And you also, you don't want to be the fall guy or the scapegoat at the end of all of this, because you're just, humming along with them, and then, like you said, the bomb drops, and then all of this stuff comes to the surface. So it's been my experience that savvy investors will spend the time to do the due diligence. And even if that's just 2 weeks, but sometimes it could be 6 months, depending on the project, because we talked about how commercial real estate transactions can have a much longer timeline. So I would say that a savvy investor spends the time, the money, and the energy necessary on the due diligence or the discovery of the property. So they're looking for hidden issues, and whether those are in the financials or in the structure or the property, the land itself, they use professional inspectors and they spend the money. And sometimes it's a chunk of money to complete this due diligence, especially if they're doing something we talked about in a previous session about a phase 1, which is an environmental study that's done, and those can be expensive. But if they're willing to say, you know what, I'm going all in with this property and I'm going to take the time and money and energy that it takes to make sure that this is successful, then at least they can say, now that I've got all that done, I either want to buy this property or I don't. Because sometimes you go through all the due diligence and then they wipe their hands and they back away. And they consider that the cost of doing business.
That's the kicker right there. I think that differentiates this type of investor from a novice investor is that they do consider it part of the cost of doing business rather than crap, I just spent all this money and it's gone. So I mean, that's a big one right there. It really is.
Yeah, it is. And this is a situation where, especially when you're working with newer investors, they may not realize that you need to have some cash to get going in this, because you hear these things, these advertisements like buy an investment property with no money. I think that's a sham, because you do need to bring some dollars to the table. We're going to talk about that in a couple of points here. But I see investors that will go forward with due diligence and then they decide to purchase the property or the project. And then other times when they say, you know, we went through this and this doesn't meet our long-term goals, or this isn't where we want to go, or we don't want to have to deal with some of these issues on the back end when we have you sell this property in 5 or 10 years, Lisa Marie. Yeah. So we're going to step away and we are going to consider this money well spent.
Absolutely. And I'm starting to put together some of the pieces that you're telling us. And so it really sounds to me like as you move along and start working with somebody, you will start to know them and understand them better. And when those times do come up where they are just wanting to, just power through due diligence and just close on the property, you'll know at that point if they're the type of investor that can absorb the risk or not.
Yes.
To where you can say you can't afford to take that risk, or hey, this person's got enough money to where even if it fails, that's just on them and they know what they're getting into.
Right. And so that risk is not only comes from the pocketbook, but it also comes from a psychological standpoint as well. Can they weather the storm of going through this process of getting loans and looking at financials, because you're doing due diligence on the financials as well as the building and the land and whatever's involved with that. It can be a challenging process. And so I partner with those people and have enough knowledge about a lot of those things that I can help guide them along the way. But they have to have that emotional fortitude also without freaking out, or getting super overly stressed. And they may have multiple deals going at one time. So that's another reason why I look for investors that want to have a long-term relationship with me, for exactly the reason you said, because I get to know them intimately on a financial level, an investment level, and maybe on a personal and family level, hopefully as well, so that I can be their eyes and ears in the market and their guide through the process. And as we get to know each other, deals work out more successfully. Sometimes they move more quickly or more seamlessly. And so I let people know up front, my business model or my client avatar is not to do a one-off deal and then never talk to them again. I really prefer to work with people over time.
Exactly. It is a building process. I'm learning that with one of my investors now, that it's a relationship. Even though it's a business relationship, it's still a personal relationship, and there's an ebb and flow, and you have to learn each other to get to that point where we all want to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa Marie, we all want to be to the point with our investors where when we're out on the marketplace, when we see something that they need to buy, we just write the offer for them. You know, we're just like, sign this, that's it. And they know to sign it, you know? So that's the goal. And that's the feedback that I've gotten from my investor too, is that's where he wants to be. You know, he's telling me this is a relationship, and we're going to get to the point where you're not even going to have to ask me. You just put in offers for me, and I'm just going to sign them, and that's going to be it. So that it takes trust, and it takes the next step, which is patience.
Right. So when people are excited about commercial real estate and like what I do is I hand pick deals for my clients. I send out a commercial pick of the week. Sometimes people will see those on Facebook, but I also have a group of investors. I know what they're looking for. So they trust me because they know that I'm going to look at something through their set of eyes before I send it to them. It doesn't mean they're always going to like it, but I may be able to present something to them that they didn't even think of. And so that's where that trust is, because they're passionate about investing in real estate and commercial real estate, and they want someone who's just as passionate about that and that's has their best interest in mind.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so that could be, I mean, in residential real estate, you do have return people, but the average person, I think, sells a house every 10 to 12 years. And so there may be a lot of time in between those residential deals. So the question is, what are you doing to stay top of mind with your residential clients in between these transactions? And when you're asking for referrals, and this is a perfect time to call them up and just have a quick conversation and say, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. How you doing? And are you interested in investing in real estate? So having these like savvy qualities in mind when you're using this as a reason to pick up the phone and connect with your clients is a good tool.
It's a huge tool. And you know that I've switched brokers recently, and most of my brokers, in the past, they've recommended that you call your sphere, like just constantly be calling them like over and over and over again throughout the entire year. And this broker recommends something different. He recommends just blocking out a week of each quarter to call your sphere. And so these apply perfectly to that. The questions that we're going to be, or the stuff that we're going to be talking about next week, as far as what to say and what kind of questions to ask. I mean, that's all you need right there. You just call them and you just say that, and you breach the conversation of commercial real estate. And of course, if they're thinking about selling, they're going to talk to you about it when you're on the phone with them. So this is such a huge piece to just add to the puzzle for us.
Exactly. So it's another way to have a touch point and have something valuable to bring to the table.
And a higher level touch point. I think that's so important. A higher level, not I'm just calling you to beg you for business. It's, hey, I got something awesome to talk to you about. Let's have the conversation.
Yeah, so you become a value add, and that's, in order to be in commercial real estate, you need to be a value added professional. So I'm bringing to the table when I'm talking to my clients and handpicking these deals, like a bigger picture of the market, but also what I think would be a good opportunity for them. And if it's not a good opportunity, at least I can have a conversation with them about how could I tweak this for you to provide more benefit to you as an investor.
And in the commercial arena, you still are able to provide that benefit and be that benefit. Whereas on the residential side, because we've kind of sold out as far as our data goes and allowed other people to syndicate, and we've completely taken that out of our control, we're no longer as important to the consumer as we used to be. So in the commercial space, and in the investment space, we still are. They need us to find those deals.
Yes, they do. Yes. So the next quality that I see is really important in a savvy investor is patience. So the right deal is not always sitting there waiting for you to pluck it up. And so it takes time to find the right deal, or for the right property or the right investment to become available. And especially with focused investors that know exactly what they want and where they want to invest their money, if they don't have patience, then they're going to get completely frustrated. And when they do have patience, it pays off, because when the property's purchased and then the investment is flourishing and it's providing for their group of investors or for their future or for their family, then that's when the patience pays off, because you know that you're not just running around looking for the first thing that pops up, but you're willing to take your time and know what you want, and that you're allowing someone like myself or another commercial real estate broker to bring that to the table. And at the same time, they're going to be out there looking too, right? Because one of the qualities was they're studying the market trends. But when you're targeted and you know what you want, you can have that patience. It really pays off because it eventually the right deal or the right deals do come along. And if they're not patient, they're just going to be completely frustrated.
Absolutely. The more we go into this, the more that I realize that even though this, for us, this is a growth process of becoming this agent that is able to help these people, it's also a growth process for the investor then. It has to be, because most people are not born with all of these qualities. You have to kind of exercise that into yourself and learn it.
Yeah, so that's like when you make up your mindset, you know, that you want to be an investor, then it's time for you to go out there and do the work. It's like when we go to the gym, we don't expect to be a fitness competitor overnight, but if we spend a specific amount of time in the gym, like you can look back after a year or 2 years and see how much change that you've made or how far you've come. It's the same way with investors. Like they build over time. They start with a small deal or, you know, and a few small deals, and then they get more knowledgeable. They develop relationships with people, and that takes patience, and that takes having a plan and goals and being consistent. And so that's why the commercial real estate agent or the commercial real estate broker becomes, that relationship over time becomes so important because you're building a future.
I couldn't agree more. Would you agree that there's like a point of like a volatile point for starting investors where they're just starting, and there's like a volatile point where if they don't connect with the right agent right then, they might not ever invest again. They might lose their money and get a bad taste in their mouth. But if they connect with a great agent at that point, when they're ready and willing and able and open, the sky's the limit.
Exactly. So when I am connected with or referred or I meet an investor, whether they're new or they're experienced, the first thing I do, I don't show them property. That happens like farther down the line. I want to have a conversation with them about their goals and about their desires. Like I want to know what's motivating them. And we're going to talk about that next week. So I don't want to give all of that away right now, but showing them property is not the first thing I do. It may not be the third thing that I do. So I want to value add, connect with them, find out if they're a good fit. And are they really serious about investing, or are they just blowing smoke? Because there's a lot of that. Just like in residential real estate, you have people that are I call them looky-loos. I don't know what you call them, but they just want someone to take them around and have them look at houses. And yeah, don't do that. If you're doing that, stop doing that.
Yes, absolutely. So should we move into capital infusion? That sounds very tantalizing.
It sounds like a cocktail, doesn't it? Is it too early for a cocktail?
It's not a clock.
I'll have a capital infusion, please, with a twist.
Oh, man.
So investors are, you know, a lot of them are, especially newer ones, they're really focused on just getting the property, like getting through the transaction and getting the property. And then they're like, oh gosh, then I'm just going to start making all this massive money. But really, after the sale's complete or the investment property is finalized, the investor still needs money at that time. So there may be money coming in or not, depending if they have tenants or how that's working, but they're going to need some capital infusion to do any repairs that are required on the investment property and any upgrades that they want to do. So for example, if you buy a multifamily project and you want to raise the rents, maybe you need to go in and do some updates, put in some laminate flooring, put in some new lighting, do some improvements to the parking area. So it's not like you're just going to take it over and then you're going to sit back and the cash is going to start rolling. So savvy investors have an understanding that there most likely is going to be some sort of capital infusion of cash, either for repairs or upgrades. Also, there's the marketing of their property. So if they're looking for tenants, they may need to get out there and spend some money to market that property. And definitely if they're going to hire a professional commercial real estate person like myself, then they want me to do that, to go out and market and do market analysis and find them tenants, then they're going to have to pay me as well. And when you refer those clients to me, part of that payment will go to you as a referral fee. So working with investors who are so tight on money, I don't recommend it, because they're going to get stuck and they're not going to have a good experience with you if they have just enough money to get into the property, and then now what do we do?
Exactly. Then they feel like you put them in a shaky position.
Yeah, and they're not prepared for success because they don't have that infusion of cash to do whatever it is they need to do. And I always tell my investors, when you buy your first investment property, especially like if it's a rental or a small multifamily, let's make a plan to buy the next one. Like, I'm already talking to them about the next step, about how they can leverage, about how they can move into an additional property or move up to a new property. So working with people who are like rubbing nickels together is, they're going to be upset with you and you're not going to be happy with the outcome either. So having that conversation up front and just working with people that are aware, hey, I'm going to need some money to move on this property.
Absolutely. Such good points.
Thank you. So the last one here is, in my opinion, is so very important. And that is, looking for savvy real estate investors, one of the really important qualities that I've seen is that they are able to maintain good relationships, not only with real estate professionals, but also with other investors. So when I'm having conversations with clients or potential clients, I'm listening for cues that they have negative things to say about other people in the industry or other investors. You probably watch out for that with residential real estate as well, right?
I do. I'm actually having a situation like that right now where I have a client that's a looky-loo wanting to see 25 properties that keeps complaining about the old agent. And they've said it like 5 times. So now I'm starting to notice it every time it's said. I'm like, wait a second.
Well, because then you don't know, are you going to be the next person they're complaining about, even if you're doing a wonderful job for them, and you're providing a great experience and you're bringing value add. So especially in commercial real estate, because here's an interesting fact. I would say, and I read this recently, about 60% of deals that an investor will find either come from the investor's sphere, either out of peers that they know, other investors, or commercial real estate professionals like myself. So if you're in an environment where 60% of this stuff comes to you through relationship and you don't have good relationships, then that's a problem.
I literally could not agree with you more. And I mean, I can think of a specific example last week that happened. I told you that I got that a commercial listing from an attorney friend of mine that was going into foreclosure. They ended up actually getting an offer accepted the next day, so we didn't end up taking over the listing. But when we met the owner in person and toured the building, that I partner with Matthew Beach here in town to do commercial real estate. We've all been on the phone together before. Yes. But the first thing that we did when we stepped outside was he started calling other commercial real estate agents. And so within 10 minutes, we already had another broker that had a different restaurant for sale where he had some buyers where there was a bunch of them that the restaurant was too large for them. He already agreed to funnel all of them over to us. So if that relationship wouldn't have existed, I wouldn't have been able to call my attorney friend 5 minutes later and say, hey, give us possession of the building. And we've got 5 people lined up ready to see it.
Exactly. So that's how a lot of things happen with commercial real estate. Another great reason to refer commercial real estate deals over, because as a residential agent, you're not going to have those connections within the investor and commercial real estate community. And because so many of these deals happen, like what we call off market, just because or you call someone, or what, like you and I talked about a property the other day that led us to talk about another restaurant. And so this is the way things happen. So whether your resources are tapping into commercial real estate brokers, private lenders, other investors, you create kind of like a sense of community, and you want to play nice in that sandbox, because if you don't, you're going to burn bridges. People aren't going to want to work with you, and you lose that ability to be relevant in the marketplace.
I agree. It's so fun at the same time. It's you have to play nice and you have to play by the rules, and just like you said, you have to play nice in that sandbox. But when you do, you get a sense of freedom that you don't really get on the residential real estate side. It's just totally different. Of course, you want to have good connections and have good relationships no matter what. But in this arena, it really matters a lot.
It really does. And if someone gets a negative mark or a bad reputation, it's like it really gets out there. And so I always want to be of value. I want to be current. I want to be, relevant, and I want to connect with as many people as I can because that helps me to serve my clients, whether they're investors, owner users, people who are going to be selling and trading commercial real estate. So listen for that when you're having conversations. Does this person sound like they've got good relationships? Do they have the skills and the tools to maintain relationships, not only in their network, but in your sphere and beyond? So that's how we get things done.
Absolutely. Makes so much sense. I would love to keep you on for like another hour and just go right through all of this and just talk about everything we're supposed to be talking about next week right now. But I do know that you have to jump off. So I'm sure we're going to wrap it up here. But we really want to tell these people that are listening, or in any residential agents, whether in Las Vegas or Reno, that Lisa Marie is doing this for you as a resource, and hopefully to get some business in return, but for it to be a mutual win-win situation where you develop a relationship with her that you can send her your investor and commercial clients, be an intricate part of the process, learn as you go, be a huge resource pillar, and get a really nice referral check from Lisa Marie.
Exactly. So this is my way to give back. I want to share this information with residential real estate agents so they feel like they can have these conversations and with the potential to greatly expand their earning income without having to expand their sphere. You can talk to the people that you already know, that you've already done business with or are doing business with, and just open up this conversation and have an idea of what to look for and some of the terminology. That's really been the purpose. So then you can refer those people to me so I can take care of them on a commercial or investment level. They stay your client, and then you get to collect a nice referral fee and look like an expert in the real estate field.
And if they didn't choose to make a residential purchase, just a regular residential purchase, you're going to turn it right back to that agent, right?
Absolutely. I'm not looking to take your clients. I'm just looking to be of value added to you, to the community, to the clients, and provide that pillar of commercial real estate expertise that you may not have as a residential agent. And then your clients go right back to you. I'm not going to be following up with them for anything other than that commercial deal that we completed.
Absolutely. So tell them how they can get a hold of you if they got a deal to send over.
Yeah, you can find me at my website, lisamariewan.com. Look for me on Facebook. I'm always doing videos and posting pertinent content. My phone number is 775-224-5300. You can message me on Facebook as well. So thanks for your time and attention today. Tam, you're awesome. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Join us next week. Most likely it will be Thursday, and we are going to be going over some of the top questions that you can ask your investors to breach that conversation and get them into a commercial real estate deal. Join us next week.
Excited.
Thank you again. Yes.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.